Hi guys, it's Megan from Vigilante Vibes, and I am here today with another character breakdown. I said about a month ago that I was going to be focusing on mutants, mostly mutants, and I am here to live up to that promise. Today, I want to talk about one of the more complicated backstories of the Marvel Universe. It's Psylocke. If you're a comic fan, then you know that Psylocke's backstory is very messy. With retcons, it's clear that there was some confusion on how Marvel wanted to handle the character. Hopefully, it's so confusing. It's a lot, but I'll explain it all. So, Psylocke is the code name that's been used by two characters, Betsy Braddock and Quanon. So, let's start with the original Psylocke, which is Betsy. The original Psylocke was nothing like the version that most fans know today. Betsy Braddock was first introduced by Chris Claremont in Captain Britain number 8, a comic made for the Marvel UK. She was brought in as Captain Britain's sister, a blonde, white Englishwoman who worked as a charter pilot, a job that'll later come very handy when she needs to fly the X-Men's Blackbird. She was mostly a side character for her brother, but eventually took over as Captain Britain herself. But that was cut short with the villain Slaymaster beating her up and blinding her, which is unfortunate. She actually got robot eyes out of it thanks to Mojo, so there's that. After doing a pretty good job subduing Sabretooth when he goes on a rampage, she stepped into the Siege Perilous and was presumed dead. Later, she shows up as a brainwashed Asian assassin called Lady Mandarin until Wolverine breaks the mind control. It was initially assumed that the Siege was responsible for changing her appearance. What actually happened was after the Siege, Betsy washed up ashore in Japan, found by the hand and used by Matsuo Tsurayaba through tech and help from Mojo and Spiral to revive his then catatonic lover, the assassin Quanon, a low-level mutant telepath. That brings us to the second version of Psylocke, Quanon. This is the Psylocke that most fans recognize today, a Japanese woman trained as a ninja, and is actually a pretty big shift from how the character originally started. But how did she end up becoming a completely different person? There's a few different ways. It's said a few different ways, but it all goes down in Uncanny X-Men number 251 when the X-Men are forced to escape through a magical portal called the Siege Perilous. It sends them to safety but wipes their memories in the process. The next time Psylocke shows up, she's in a completely new body working as an assassin for the Hand. Luckily, Wolverine manages to snap her out of it, like I said, and the two of them make their way back to the X-Men. How she ended up in a new body has been retconned and rewritten a few times over the years. At first, it was explained that Mojo just transformed her, but later, stories clarified that the body actually belonged to Quanon. So, it still does not make sense, right? After Psylocke went through the Siege Perilous, Quanon's lover found her and, with the help from Mojo and the Mandarin, switched her mind with Quanon's. He did this because Quanon was gravely injured after falling off a cliff. By switching the minds of the two women, he could at least allow Quanon's body to live. Turns out, Quanon was not as dead as everyone thought. While stuck in Psylocke's original form, Quanon eventually recovered from the mind swap and headed to the US to track down Betsy. The magic and tech used to switch their minds also mixed their DNA, which is why they ended up sharing the same mutant powers. They even had bits of each other's memories and personalities. Quanon came after Psylocke, planning to kill her to reclaim the missing parts of herself. So it's like there's just so many reasons or excuses as to why this happened. I just wish they would say, "Yeah, we did too much. We weren't sure where we wanted to go and this is what happened." But it's whatever. The X-Men stopped her before it went that far. Eventually, the full truth came out that Quanon realized that killing Psylocke wouldn't give her back what she lost. She ended up joining the X-Men for a while, going by the name Revanche, which means revenge in French. I don't have a French accent, so that's as French as I can make it for you. So yeah, for a time, the X-Men had two Psylocks on the team, which isn't confusing at all. Sadly, Quanon was infected with the legacy virus, which was the virus spread among mutants that took out quite a few mutants, Ileana Rasputina, for example. Before it could fully take her, she made peace with Betsy and reunited with her old lover, asking him to end her life so she wouldn't suffer. This made Betsy whole again. So, after all the body swapping chaos, Betsy spends several years in Quanon's body, the badass ninja version of Psylocke with the British accent that most people recognize. She dies a couple times, goes through some power changes, the usual comic book mumbo jumbo. Then, during a mission to find Wolverine, she runs into some weird enemies who force her to destroy Quanon's body. And just like that, Betsy's original British body reappears from inside it. So, yeah, that's the end of the sexy ninja era for Betsy. She eventually steps up and becomes the new Captain Britain. But, plot twist. Soon after that, the mutant island nation of Krakoa is formed, along with the whole resurrection thing. Kwannon is brought back in her original Japanese body. She decides to reclaim the Psylocke name and takes on the ninja assassin role again, but this time, no British accent and no purple dyed hair. It is a full circle moment, but now both characters finally have their identities. Psylocke's powers have changed a lot through the years, understandably so, mostly thanks to all the big shakeups in her history, like switching bodies with Kwannon and coming back to life through magic. These twists seriously altered what she could do compared to when she first showed up as in Captain Britain. Originally, Psylocke just had straight up telepathy. She wasn't quite on Jean Grey or Professor X's level, but she could still pull off some impressive psychic tricks. After switching bodies with Quanon, though, her telepathy took a major hit, but she gained the ability to create Psyblade, uh, basically a psychic weapon that she could use in combat. Once Quanon died, her telepathy went back to normal. Later on, she drank the Crimson Dawn elixir, which gave her the power to teleport by stepping through shadows, which is like, that's really cool though. Like, that's really cool. Then she got telekinesis after losing her telepathy to the Shadow King, though that eventually came back too. Over time, she got even better at creating psionic weapons like full on psychic swords and even bows and arrows made out of mental energy. More recently, her telepathy got a huge boost thanks to the Jean Grey from the Age of Apocalypse universe. Now, Psylocke's psychic powers are considered to be on the same level as Professor X's, which is kind of wild considering where she started. Feels like kind of a consolation prize. Hey, sorry we messed up your character so much. Now you can be just as powerful as like the X-Men, the guy. But more currently, Betsy Braddock has been spending time with the X Force, and Quanon is on the X Men team based out of Alaska, which is ran by Cyclops, which is pretty good. Like the stuff from the Ashes have been very kind to both characters. So, why did all of this messiness even have to happen? From what I understand, this all happened because Marvel had a bit of a falling out with Chris Claremont. He was known for evolving characters and changing them in big ways, like turning Betsy from a British woman to an Asian ninja. But then Claremont left the X Men and Marvel altogether. The writer who came in after him didn't fully do his due diligence and check out the story and just assumed it was just a basic body swap situation, and he just ran with it. By the time Marvel's editorial team realized the mix up, it was too late. Betsy had gone from a pretty minor character to a hugely popular Asian ninja. And they didn't want to undo that by putting her back in a white body and risk upsetting fans. So, yeah, a lot of this weird timeline happened partly because they booted the original writer and kind of winged it from there. Mind you, this isn't like super, super confirmed. Like, we haven't heard from the writers on that. So, take it with a grain of salt. But also keep in mind at this point, there was a huge obsession in pop culture with fictional ninjas. So I have to think that has something to do with it as well. But also, if we're getting down straight down to it, oh, how do I say it? Um, When Psylocke came through in Quinon's body, the Asian sexy ninja, some of those covers of her as a sexy ninja were very, very top sellers. They appealed to the very horny nerds of the world, which, like, I get because she is hot. In all those covers, she's hot as hell. So it's like, I think that also has a lot to do with why they didn't just switch it back and keep Betsy Braddock. But I mean, whatever. They did something that made no sense. It somehow worked and appealed to a larger horny audience, and here we are today. But either way, we have Quinon as Psylocke and we have Betsy as Captain Britain, both great characters who could stand on their own in the comics despite the extremely messy past. So, as usual, I have some comic recommendations to share for you to get to know Psylocke a little better. There's a really great ongoing comic named Psylocke that I really recommend checking out. It goes through all of her trauma. You get great cameos, but most importantly, you get a lot of great stuff with just Psylocke on her own. But continuing, Uncanny X-Men 256 through 258, X-Men 31 and 32. Those comics are very important to get a full understanding of the body switches between Betsy and Quinon. Hellions from 2022, X-Men Volume 2, 20 through 22, and Psylocke 2010, 1 through 4. So that is all I have to say about Psylocke. She is a very, very confusing character, but it's each interpretation, Betsy or Quinon, they are both really great characters. I prefer Quinon. I think she's dope. I think she's awesome. Betsy is fine, but I like her better as Captain Britain, hanging out with the X-Force, with Forge and Sage and all them. I like her better there. Quinon is going through it right now, and her new ongoing series from the Ashes stuff. So she's very, I like where she's at too. It's all very, very confusing stuff, but once you kind of like look past it and you're able just to kind of focus on where they are now, it's totally fine. So yeah, I hope that explained it to you. I hope you were able to understand any of that. It was a lot. I confused myself while I was writing this episode. What can you do? But be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any more of these character breakdowns. Let me know if there's any characters you want to hear about because I love doing these. And yeah, just keep up with my stuff because I have great stuff dropping all the time, if I do say so myself. With that being said, have a marvelous day.